It's no secret that Zenless Zone Zero is not doing as well as some might be hoping. Before its launch, the game had quite a lot of hype around it. Players were excited to see what the next big thing from Hoyoverse was going to be. Everyone waited with bated breath, especially after Honkai Star Rail's previous track record of offering a free limited 5-star unit like Dr. Ratio and also blowing Genshin's first anniversary out of the water with 30 free pulls. Riding on the high that any of Hoyoverse's newer projects will outshine their old ones in terms of quality and generosity, Zenless Zone Zero was set to make waves in the industry, promising engaging combat, an amazing cast of characters, and a lively animation style that screams eye candy. But what we got fell short of expectations, with issues cropping up the more you play. I'm Vincent, and today we're taking a look at ZZZ's fall from grace and its slow rise from the ashes. The game's launch went well enough, with players being promised 100 free pulls and 80 boopons. Except, those 100 free pulls were just the ones you'd naturally get from playing the game. Now, it was never stated otherwise, but normally games don't advertise the amount of free pulls you earn simply by playing the game, and when you have an announcement for something like this, mind you, not a post somewhere on their social media page, but a full-on video announcement, people mistook it for a very generous launch event. That was not the case, and soon players realized this and felt like they were lied to. So, straight out of the gate, the game lost quite a bit of goodwill and trust. Then came the UI. ZZZ is set in this urban world with a lot of style and character, mixing punk aesthetics with high-tech gadgets and vibes reminiscent of Persona 5 and The World's End With You. The UI, while thematically on point, is not only confusing but also hard to navigate, requiring players to scroll way too much to be able to reach the locations and features that would be part of their daily routine. Combine that with the fact that certain quests required a specific time of day to complete when there was no way to manually change it, which caused even more friction. Then comes the actual game, which, don't get me wrong, is fun to play when it comes to combat encounters, but is rather simple, and it also falls off on its exploration aspect. Exploration in Zenless Zone Zero was presented as a maze of TVs that you had to make your way through, finding hidden loot and solving puzzles along the way. Needless to say, this was antithetical to the fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping action that the game's combat offered. It was slow, tedious, and while it did offer some funny moments, they were never of such great impact or importance because I can't recall a single one of them off the top of my head. There were also other issues back then, like the lack of a stamina reserve system, but you get the picture. It was not great, and Hoyoverse saw it with every monthly earning report that was consistently placing ZZZ behind Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail in revenue. Yes, I know these monthly earnings are not 100% accurate, but it can still be used to get a feel for the overall trend, and like it or not, this is the best thing we have for measuring performance. So what did Hoyoverse do? They wrote it out for about 3 versions, hoping player sentiment would improve, but seeing as that wasn't the case, they decided to improve the player experience in version 1.4, which served as the game's soft relaunch. This version was pretty hype, releasing Hoshimi Miyabi, the strongest agent to date, as well as bringing a lot of quality of life changes and a much improved storytelling experience. They removed the monitor array and made maps bigger to give a sense of exploration. They removed the shared ultimate system and allowed all 3 agents on your team to have their own ultimate meters, so you're no longer saving decibels just for the DPS character. They even streamlined some of the unnecessary fluff in your day-to-day grind. Basically, an overall improvement for your daily play session. In the story department, 1.4 was this game's Avengers Assemble moment, where the story threads and factions you've encountered up until that point came together to culminate in a big boss fight. This is a very rare feeling to have in Hoyoverse games, as they don't really like having conclusions for their stories. They prefer going down the to-be-continued route, leaving things open-ended so that they can continue that particular story beat whenever they feel like it. I mean, just look at all the old Genshin characters that have been stuck with just the first act of their stories. Eula, my queen, they do not appreciate you enough. Not the case in ZZZ though, at least not completely. Spoiler warning for version 1.4 and beyond incoming, so click off if you care enough. Okay, thanks, bye! So in 1.4, the majority of the agents figure out your real identity as Phaethon. First, it's Miyabi's crew wanting to arrest you on suspicion of being a proxy, triggering a conflict between the Cunning Hares, the Sons of Caledon, and Section 6. I'm sorry, what? Actual inter-character conflict in my Hoyoverse game. Then it's Juyuan realizing that you're a proxy because she saved you from a police investigation and she feels incredibly betrayed by your lies. It hurts even more because she trusted you so much she made a bet with Qingyi that you're innocent. Can you believe this? Actual consequences for the main character's actions. But of course you kinda smooth it over immediately after, and it really hasn't been brought up again, which is a damn shame to be honest, since it feels a little bit unresolved. Finally, things ramp up all the way to 100 as all of the factions that you've met so far come to your aid so that you can deal with one of the biggest threats to New Eridu's safety. You've managed to reveal one of the hands belonging to the secret organization that has been pulling the strings from the shadows. Bringer, refusing to let himself get taken in, uses some questionable substance to turn himself into an ethereal. You fight, you win, and put an end to the crisis thanks to everyone helping out, but this also introduces a new plot point in its conclusion, that being the true nature of the twins. One conflict gets resolved and new questions take its place, leading towards new conflict. The overall story arc of finding our lost mentor is still left incomplete. I mean, yeah, it's version 1.4, the game basically just began, but it still feels like we've taken a very important step in that journey. We've raised a new proxy account, we've made new powerful factions our allies, and apparently we've recovered our ether aptitude, which now allows us to physically go into hollows. Compare that with Genshin or HSR's track record, where the overarching story hasn't seen any meaningful progress for years now. In Genshin, you're still looking for your sister. There is literally no difference in the status quo from when the traveler first started his journey until now, 5 years later. In HSR, we still don't know anything about what Elio's script is or why we've been planted to be recruited by the Astral Express. Though I will not deny that there are some gems hidden in these two titles like Farina's arc and the Belobog arc, which were the only story arcs that felt complete in Genshin and HSR. Everything else just feels left up in the air. But the best part? All of this action and development was nicely contained in about a 3-hour time frame. It felt like so much more happened with better pacing than anything Genshin and HSR have managed to do recently. What really sets ZZZ apart is its focus on character stories. You can see the characters finally be themselves without the constant obligatory MC glaze. You get to see them in their intimate moments, in their happy moments, in their confusing moments. There are story arcs where the MC has very little involvement with what's going on aside from them being there as a guide. The stories focus on the characters themselves and how they deal with their own issues, their own struggles, their own skeletons in the closet. Zenless Zone Zero is not afraid to let their characters take center stage. Powerless as we are as Phaethon, all we can do is provide support in the form of guidance and communication with relevant agents. Best examples I can think of off of the top of my head are Silver Ambi and Trigger's storylines, which touch upon some really dark themes like slavery, human experimentation, torture, maiming, and organ harvesting. It was Ambi and Soldier 11 that fought to bring an end to their dark past. It was Trigger that had to take down Grim Vulture and figure out how to live with the guilt of being the only one to survive from her squad. Phaethon may have been there as a Bang Boo, but only in a supporting role. This allowed for character development through a trial by fire and brought a satisfying conclusion to their current character arcs. Also, it's very funny for me to unironically say that out of the big four, ZZZ has the darkest themes. Behind the fashionable exterior of New Eridu, its underbelly hides some really inhumane secrets. Then come the events, which bring new gameplay activities like literal Bang Boo Fall Guys, or modes that allow you to test out new moves or abilities added to old characters. Sure, there are still fluff events like the flower arranging events, but this is something that you can't really escape from with Hoyo titles. Oh, how about a revision to the weekly roguelike mode that further adds or changes parts of a character's kit? Or even allowing you to walk around as your favorite agent or take them out on dates. And even after all of that, that's not enough, as they promised even more features to come with version 2.0, including a rework of non-DPS characters and adding new attack and defensive mechanics to the game. Now, we don't really know the exact extent that they'll go to since there's not been enough detail on those changes ever since their dev talk video. But if I were a speculating man, I'd say this can mean anything from changes to the core combat loop, adding new moves for older characters to keep them up to date with newer units, and perhaps more. But I'll wait for my suspicions to be confirmed when the 2.0 anniversary stream will be available. And speaking of the anniversary, that's going to be a very special moment, and I can't wait to see what will happen. Setting the jokes aside, ZZZ has the potential for a very successful anniversary. The devs have brought tangible improvements and quality of life updates to the game, and they're aware of the game's current shortcomings to the extent that they've promised to deliver on more features to improve player experience. All they have to do now to seize the moment is follow my easy step-by-step guide on how to host a banger anniversary. Step 1. Announce your usual slew of content and in-game events. Make sure the events are substantial and that they actually feel like a celebration of not just the players, but of the characters as well. Step 2. Be generous with your premium currency rewards to show your appreciation for your players. Step 3. Dish out a free standard 5-star unit for good measure. Do this and you'll have the most successful and most appreciated anniversary out of the entire Big Four, bar none. If you're looking for bonus points, then here's step 4. Let players have a free limited 5-star unit from the 1.x versions. Do I think this will happen? Probably not. I can't really say. If they don't, I can easily say they'll be missing their best chance at a comeback. But if they do, then neither Genshin Impact, HSR, or Withering Waves will be able to compete. Now, let's come back down from our trip through the clouds, okay? It's nice to take a look at things in a positive light and expect the best, but we have to be realistic and remember that this is Hoyoverse we're talking about, the company that has managed to burn its player base multiple times with 2 different titles. So let's also take a look at the realistic concerns surrounding ZZZ's future. In both Genshin's and HSR's cases, quality and player goodwill started dipping around version 3.0. That was Genshin's introduction to Sumeru, which had the notorious 12-hour R&R side quest, and HSR's introduction to Amphorius, which is full of exaggerated dialogue bloat, and also introduced the even more notorious global passive through Casterus. If ZZZ will be following this same trend, we're looking at only about 1 more year of good content before its seemingly inevitable downfall once version 3.0 hits. How can this downfall manifest? Well, there are a few options. Since Phaethon will now be studying under a master, they will most likely learn some combat skills to help them in hollow exploration and give them a high chance of becoming a playable unit. This is not bad in and of itself, but it could become a problem if it will be used as an excuse for copious amounts of MC glazing in the future. I'd like for ZZZ to maintain its focus on telling character stories through the characters themselves and not by using the MC as a proxy. See what I did there? Anyway, another issue would be the loss of intrigue. Since mostly all of our allies are aware of our identity as Phaethon, the story risks becoming bland. Living a double life as a proxy added tension and risk to our relationships with the agents, which made for very interesting interactions. Oh no! These are the police women that we've helped in the Hollow. I sure hope they don't figure out our secret identity! Proxy? What's that? No, I don't know what you're talking about. It's not like I have a bamboo that looks exactly like the one that escorted you through the Hollow. It's a very different dynamic when compared to the rest of the Big Four, since you were straight up lying to their face for the longest time, and yet it was necessary because while being a proxy might be illegal, everything Phaethon does is for the benefit of the people of New Eridu. I hope they'll find ways to keep exploring the secret identity theme, or at the very least replace it with something else that's equally interesting. Lastly, we're talking power creep, which is a very real risk considering Hoyo's reputation with HSR and the introduction of Hoshimi Miyabi to the game. Miyabi is by far the strongest agent that has been released in ZZZ, sitting like Virgil on her lonely throne at the top of the DPS category. At this point, I think it's safe to say that Virgil is cooler than Dante. I mean, just look at the guy. He's got how many daughters by now? Miyabi completely outclasses any other DPS in the game, with even the newest characters falling short of reaching the coveted 0 tier. Yes, there's a lore explanation as to why she's so powerful, but that's not the point. There is real cause for concern of severe power creep when a character comes out that is so powerful that she can still deal more damage than the units matching the current elemental weakness. However, this can also be looked in a positive light. If the truly powerful units are few and far between, while everyone else stays at a respectable level, then ZZZ might be going down the Withering Waves and Genshin Impact route, which have done a much better job at keeping the game's balance in check than HSR. What you should be taking away from this is that Zenless Zone Zero is looking good for the foreseeable future and has the potential to become one of the better gachas despite its early flaws. I, for one, choose to remain cautiously optimistic, playing the game for as long as it stays fun for me, while keeping a close eye on it, just in case Hoyoverse tries to light the match again. Would I recommend you getting into Zenless Zone Zero if you're not already playing? No, of course not! Haven't you been paying attention to anything I've been saying? I spent the entirety of this video telling you they're only improving the game because it's underperforming. No, shoo, go away. I want this game to stay at its current underperforming level so that the devs keep improving this game from now until the end of time! But do feel free to talk about your experience with the ZZZ in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, have a good one.